Hello, Instagram. It is me, Lisa, the Love Coach, and I am live. I'm going to talk a little bit today about a really hot topic that comes up in my coaching practice often, and it has to do with dating as a single parent and also dating as a single person who doesn't have kids, who dates single parents, or just wants to open their life up to dating whoever they click with. And sometimes these people are parented, they have parents. So I posted something that shared what people tell me and what people share with me. I engage and talk to a bunch of people on social media all the time. I'm a very curious person. I like to find out what makes people tick so that I can help them better. And I like to understand the issues that they're facing when they are dating. Hi, Robert from Montreal, Canada. Awesome. Shout out to you up there. Okay, so we have a single dad. Wonderful. Okay, so here's the thing, and this goes for men and for women, and I'm sure people have had instances where they've experienced this, where they're dating and they're maybe a single parent or they're dating a single parent, and the issue comes up of discipline and behavior. So it has been communicated to me by my followers, by people I coach, that one of the major turnoffs, so much so that in the first 90 days, it could be a deal breaker, is bad parenting. And what really they say is parenting that lacks discipline, where the kids are running the show, where the kids run the show, meaning drop everything, my kids need this, and there's no structure, there's no sense of, mom and dad have a life and we tend to you and make sure that you have everything you need, and then we have our own life and care that we need to give ourselves, and we must go and socialize with older people. We can't always be around children and children media and children things, right? It's going to turn our brain to mush. But that doesn't mean that we neglect the kids. It doesn't mean we don't take care of them. You can accomplish both. So a lot of times people come to me with this challenge and they're like, I'm a single dad or I'm a single mom, and it's really hard for me to meet people because they hear that I have a child or multiple children and they bail. They don't want to have anything to do with that. Meanwhile, some parents have super obedient, amazing kids, really good kids, polite kids. They do chores, they're responsible, they're parented in a way that personal responsibility is a value, more old school values, more of an old school type of parenting style. And these kids are great kids, right? So I have friends who parent in that way. They definitely have serious, firm boundaries in the house. The rules are very, very clear. The parents know how to stand to those rules. There's structure, there's discipline. Kids are in the home and they're thriving. They're doing great in school. They are looking out for their siblings if they have them. They know what it is to clean a bathroom and a kitchen. They know what it is to help bring in groceries and put them away. They have responsibilities. They're not just overly indulged, entitled, bratty, sitting around as if the parents are there to cater to their every whim, right? So that's a different type of parenting style. And so when you're dating, really what you're looking to do is mesh your life with someone else's, right? So if your life includes children, it's very important that those children are raised in a way that their needs are met, that they are emotionally tended to, right? So a lot of times kids who go through divorce, they have a lot of emotional stuff going on with them, and they might act out if they're not being communicated with in the right way. If their feelings and their emotions are not being considered, they will bottle it up inside, and then when mom or dad decides to invite in a new person, they will lash out. So it's really important that the parents pay attention to really what the kids feel about the situation with the family. So these are topics that a lot of people avoid, because what happens is oftentimes parents get divorced and they're so in their bubble of dealing with the divorce that they forget that their children have opinions about what's going on too. And they don't address them. They don't sit their kids down and say, how are you with this? And before even dating again, sit down with your kids and say, so mom and dad have been divorced for 2 years now, and I would like to start going out and meeting new people and bringing around some new people. Now, I'm not going to bring around just anyone. I am going to make sure that they meet a set of standards, because I care for you guys. I love you, right? I'm your mom, I'm your dad, whatever. And it's really important that we as a little family are very careful with who we invite in. So I'm going to honor you. I love you. You're my babies. And I'm never going to bring somebody around you who isn't worthy of our family vibe that we create and that we protect. And so that will put your kids at ease. And that will be like, okay, kind of sucks. But then you ask them, how do you feel about this, right? How do you feel? And they could be little. And maybe that's, a conversation that you'd have to have differently. I basically help people a lot with communication, because that's my jam. I did public relations and marketing. I majored in communications, nonverbal, verbal, all the psychology behind communication, neuro-linguistic programming. So that is my jam. I love helping people have tricky, difficult conversations so that they can really bond more with the people in their lives that they love and care for. So that was kind of the gist of it. If you have questions, I'd love to open this as a Q&A. As usual, when I come on, I know people watch this and they have questions. Feel free to ask. I always read through in the comments. People are waving. And, if anything comes through that you have a question or a comment or something like that, I'm happy to answer. But this thing with, single parents and navigating that, navigating dating as a single parent is a tricky thing. And it's really important to have children who are adjusted as best as they can be considering the circumstances. So I'll give you my own personal example. When I was 3 years old, I met my stepmother. She wasn't my stepmother yet. She was the woman that my dad was dating at the time. And we became the closest of friends over the years. And then they got married when I was 9. But I was so little that my dad never sat me down and asked me what do you think about me getting married again, or me marrying Therese and whatever. And I was tiny, right? I was only 9 years old when they got married. So it's difficult when the kids are little. They're kind of along for the ride, right? But they have their own concerns and they do have their own thoughts about what's going on. And they don't have the words because they're babies. Also, they don't feel that they're allowed to be open and honest. They feel like I'm going to get in trouble if I say this, or if I ask these questions, right? So it's important to establish a space for your kids, however age, whatever age, that they can openly come to you and ask open, honest questions. So if you guys have questions for me, I'll happily answer them for you. It could be on anything. It doesn't have to be on single parenting and dating while parented. It's definitely tricky. It's super important to have a life, right? You're an adult. You're entitled to go out and find love again. I help people with that. I help people figure out what it is they want, so that they can date with focus and power and purpose, and they can feel more secure in themselves as they go out there and date and meet new fun people. And they can do it with discernment and a standard and a way of positioning themselves and framing themselves so that they handle themselves as ladies and gentlemen, very old school. And so that's what I do. So if any of this resonates with you, if you're a single mom, single dad, and you're having issues, by all means, drop me a note. Bobby says, you're right. Communication with your children is really important. I've gone through that situation when I got divorced. It's tough, but I believe I did a pretty good job with my son. Absolutely. I mean, the thing is that's interesting here is that, parents are doing the best they could with what they know at the time, right? That's all of us, whether we have kids or not. Every time we make a decision, we're making a decision based on the information that we have at the time and where we are in our consciousness at the time. So as you learn more, you do better, right? As you know better, you do better. So good for you for at least having the intention to be there for your children during a very tricky thing, a horrible thing, actually. Divorce is never good for anybody, right? It does happen, but it's certainly something that leaves a mark on a family. And oftentimes those kids, they might seem good and well adjusted and thriving in school and they're doing great, but deeper emotionally, there will be things that come up decades later. And that's kind of what happened to me, right? So my parents got divorced. I was 3 years old. I was baby little. And I moved to a family home. So my cousins were living there, my aunt, my uncle. And there was about, anywhere from 6 to 13 people living in that house at any one time. And it was very chaotic, a lot of different personalities, no boundaries, no respect for my things. So it was a very unsettled, for someone like me who's incredibly sensitive to all of the people around me and their moods and their, way of being, arguments would break out and it was just like a very toxic, erratic, up and down environment. Okay. So all of this ends up, being like a sponge. I'm a little girl. I'm, 4 years old up until 12 years old. That's when I lived in that environment. And so a lot happens. A lot of mental programming happens between the ages of birth to 12 years old. I mean, a lot of neuroplasticity and, wiring in the brain is formed. Beliefs are formed about yourself, about others, how you relate to others. So oftentimes you do not feel anything about that until you start entering relationships yourself. So I did, great kid, honor roll, played sports, popular kid, good girl, smart girl, ladylike, always mannered and well-mannered and stuff. But there was a storm going on underneath it all. And I was being what I believed everyone needed me to be. And I was held to a standard, and I connected the dots around me, and I knew it to get love, this is how I have to be. So it became love is earned. Be this way and you get love. So that's how I was taught how to give and receive love. Very conditional, right? So conditional love, I could do a whole entire video on that, but it's very much rooted in raising your children in a conditional way where if you do these things, you get love. It should be this. Consider it. I love you no matter what. I love you no matter what. But in this home, we have a set of rules so that we can live together harmoniously, right? So this is how this runs. And someday, you're going to have a place, right? 18, honey, you can save your pennies, get out of here, and go have your own house and run it the way you want. But as long as you are living in this, and let this be motivation. Maybe you don't like how things run here, but you can, by all means, 18 years old, do your thing. But for the time that you're here, in order for this home to be a home of peace and tranquility and a safe, good, peaceful place for you to study, for me to work, for whatever, right? All of us to be here together, there are certain things that have to happen, okay? And so this is what these rules are for. And it's out of love. I love you so much, right? I want you to have a beautiful, environment to live in, but we all have to look out for one another, right? We're all accountable for one another, and that's loving and kindness to one another. The more accountable you are and the more personal responsibility you have, the more you're giving to others. It's not you're a victim and you're taking from your mom and you're taking from your dad and you're taking, and you're raising a bunch of narcissists. It's about, here are the standards for the people who are in this home. And this is what we stand for. It's a very old school approach, but I believe the world needs more of that. So kudos to the parents out there who are parenting in that way. I know there are many. It's nice to see. I coach many, but they do go on dates and they're navigating this, single parent dating dynamic. And so sometimes you'll have people who have have children, and then they will date another person who has children, and their parenting styles are completely out of whack, and it never works out. It ends up being chaotic. So there's some of that. And then there are a lot of people who are child-free, and they may have a policy where they don't date people with children. And that's fine. You're child-free for a reason. You chose to opt out of parenting, or some of them are open to dating people with children, provided the children are grown and 18 and up or whatever. So it really depends on what your preference is, what your standards are. I got a lot of shade for a video where I was simply just reporting the news about how it's a deal breaker when people try to date somebody and their kids are complete disasters, bratty and disrespectful and mouthing off, and it's a deal breaker. And I got not a lot of shade, but I got some shade from, it's amazing how people get so triggered. I was simply reporting what people were saying, what I get from my coaching practice, and just from, talking to people who see my posts and my content, and they drop me DMs and we get into conversations about what their dating struggles are. And that's, what the news was, but I guess it is a controversial topic, and it certainly does press some buttons, maybe for the people out there who are single parents with brat kids. I mean, I don't know. Because if you have kids who are good kids and you see this content, I think that you would feel good about yourself. You would feel like, cool, I'm doing it right. Like, thanks, Lise. Like, you're right. Yeah, there are people out there who have bratty kids that are disrespectful, and I make sure that my kids are okay, right? So if you're that, then if you see that content, keep scrolling or whatever. What I find interesting, and I could do a whole other video on this as well, are, people who just blow in for the shade and the petty hate. Like, bring it, right? Bring it. I don't back down from an argument at all. Never did. I don't back down from confrontation of any kind. You want to come at me and throw shade? We'll have a discussion. And I love to use the shade to my favor. So when somebody throws shade on a comment or whatever, or calls me or out or insults me and bullies me, I'm not standing for that shit. And I will not. So, I had a little run-in with somebody today on one of my posts. She clearly didn't get the message. She just rushed after being triggered to come at me and insult me, and I handled her. So you can check that out on my feed if you'd like, but more importantly, I'm here to serve the people. I have, over 25 years of experience in public relations and marketing. I do marketing and PR for my own business, to market myself, to market my services. I did that with global brands in New York City and the suburbs of New York, different PR agencies. I did book publicity for a while. So that's my jam. Communication is my jam. Like, no one can touch me on that. And oftentimes, communication is a thing with dating and relationships. Communicating about yourself, how to represent yourself, how to tell your story, how to package your story in a way that is interesting and compelling and truthful and authentic, and that invites somebody to be wanting to be closer to you as opposed to repelling them. So that is, one of the things that I know I'm super good at, and definitely one of the things that I bring to my coaching practice. So if you're looking for that, feel free to drop me a PM. But I wish all of you love and light and prosperity and all good things as you move forward in your endeavors. And if I can help you out in any way, I am Lisa the Love Coach, founder of LoveQuestCoaching.com, and I will happily receive your DM and we can converse that way in private. Thanks so much and have a wonderful day. Bye.